Welcome to the Spotlight on Marketing, brought to us by Armstrong Lloyd. I'm your host, Karen Lloyd, and today's guest is Ross Chapman, a seasoned marketing leader with over 12 years' experience in driving revenue growth for B2B SaaS technology companies. He's also been the first marketing hire for 4 different software businesses, and he's proud to have grown Aptitude Software from 7 million to 15. PortSwigger, he's helped grow from 15 to 40 million. So it's got a very unique background, Ross, in engineering and sales, and he brings that perspective on bridging the gap between marketing, sales and product teams with a result to drive customer-centric growth. So welcome, Ross.
Thank you very much, Karen. That's a great introduction.
No worries at all. It's all true. But I want to start off with actually, because I know both you and I share a really good common interest, and we love reading self-development books as our hobby. And I just wondered what your 1 or 2 favourite books that significantly shaped your marketing philosophy and approach.
Oh, yes. I'll tell you a bit of a story. So I graduated from engineering school, but didn't want to be an engineer and got this great first job in the middle of the dot-com era selling high-end semiconductors in Silicon Valley. I had a great job. They gave me a company car. I lived in San Francisco. I was spending all my time with hot startups and technology development companies in Silicon Valley, but I really didn't know what I wanted to do with my career. And during that period, I decided actually, well, hold on, why don't I read some books? And I happened to read the book Crossing the Chasm, or Crossing the Chasm, depending on what side of the pond you're on. And that book actually taught me that this career of marketing, which I maybe thought, just like everyone else, was just about advertising and promotion and events, this career in marketing was about understanding customer needs. And so that book, Crossing the Chasm, introduced me to marketing, and I would go on to actually help apply many of those lessons at Aptitude Software, which grew from 7 million to 50 million during my period there. So that book has been a big influence on me. There are many, many others. I'm a big reader. There are many others, probably more laterally. April Dunford's books on positioning, obviously awesome, and Sales Story, I think really encapsulate how to get your proposition right. So April's been a big influence on me as well.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant. No, I haven't read any of those actually. I think what my favourite book is, I quite like The Obstacle is the Way, which is by Ryan Holiday. I don't know if you've read that. It's about not always doing the exact path. You know, it talks about history, and it's, you know, sometimes examples of companies that have been market disruptors, basically. So, you know, they've maybe failed or they've hit rock bottom, and then they've basically, you know, rather than just go around it, they've gone straight through it and come out the other side. So I found that book quite inspirational, actually.
I love that. I'll check that out.
Yeah, no, please do. Now, as a market leader, I know that, you know, as we talked about reading and learning, we're on a constant journey of growing. So what is your biggest aha moment or learning experience you've had as a marketing leader where you've like gone, oh, actually?
You know, there's been many. I think the first one is if I kind of continue my story. So at some point, 5 years into my sales career, I decided actually I've got these other interests. I want to develop my career, and I earned a position at London Business School on their MBA program. And there, I was lucky to have Mark Ritson, who's become quite the celebrity marketer as a professor. And Mark talked about actually marketing as being the 95% of the things you do before you start promoting a product. But when I went post business school to take some of my first roles, and I went to a lot of marketing meetups, I went to a lot of marketing events, and I spoke to a lot, I had a lot of interviews with CEOs who were looking to hire a marketing person. Actually, I realized that no one in industry and practice were recognizing this, that there was a lot of marketing being done, but no one was really paying attention to actually what are the unique capabilities of the product, and what are the truly, do we deeply understand our customer needs? And it was actually the first CEO I worked for at Aptitude Software, Tom Crawford, who I spoke to yesterday. Tom actually, when he was rebuilding Aptitude, or launching Aptitude. We actually launched Aptitude Software as a new brand. Uh, he got us together and said, Ross, you're our marketing guy. Your job is to deeply understand customer needs. And so I think, Tom's vision and my lessons from Mark Ritson and the lessons that are taught in Crossing the Chasm about marketing strength really being about deeply understanding customer needs. That's been the big aha moment in my career. And for a long time, I've been maybe ashamed of it because it's a bit, it's putting strategy before tactics, and everyone wants just something to get done. But I've learned now, time and time again, that if you don't deeply understand your customer needs and you don't segment your audiences based on their needs, no amount of promotion you're going to do is going to be effective. And so that's a kind of core part to my marketing process.
It sounds that what a major factor there was that you also had a CEO that was on board with marketing and said, "Hey, this is the guy. Listen to it." And I think that really helps because some CEOs in other companies, I know because I speak to people all the time that are looking to leave those companies. They're not as supportive and have the belief in it. And this is one of the reasons we do this podcast, is to educate people and hopefully realise the value of marketing. But in terms of do you want to walk us through a little bit more about the steps? Because it's really easy to look at the revenue, isn't it, at the end and say we've made this revenue how? But can you walk us through the sort of steps of how marketing really took that business on that journey in that business?
Oh gosh, I'll try to do so succinctly. Yeah, a couple things. I mean, I think I'll tell another story, as is my way. So when I joined, Aptitude Software was actually a publicly listed company called Microgen, and the vision of the chairman at the time was to sell a technology platform, which was actually named the Aptitude Technology Platform. It was an early no-code platform to help people build software routines, data processing software routines without having to code. And during that time, again, coming with my academic knowledge of marketing about understanding customer needs, the very first thing I did is said, well, hold on, how are customers using this product today? And there was an obvious fact staring me in the face that I think at the time Microgen had 12 customers of its technologies, and almost all of them were in the office of the CFO or the finance department of large banks in London. And Crossing the Chasm will teach us that when your technology hasn't become mainstream, you often need to package it up as a business application. And so, to answer your question, Karen, the very first step in my process is to really understand, what are the unique capabilities a company has, and how do customers, potential customers or actual customers, perceive those capabilities? What is it that it's actually doing for them? So the starting process is always that. It's always to understand the customer, the needs, and to start to build a hypothesis about how the company and its technology and its products might be differentiated. From there, there's many steps. We start to identify our top growth opportunities. We start to understand and map the customer experience. Another great book, Forget the Funnel, by two great emerging marketing visionaries, talks about the need to map and measure the customer experience to know where you're going. And then I think you move then into, hold on, if we understand our top growth opportunities, we know what our goals are and what we're going to measure, we have a strong understanding of how we're going to deliver value to the customer through all stages of their journey. The next step then becomes, hold on, how are we going to help more people to get value, to drive value from our company? And that then becomes what we might refer to as campaigning or demand generation. So hopefully it gives you a high level picture of kind of the process that I like to go through.
And just in terms of a really basic question, but in terms of when you said we understand the customer, what did you do? Just go and speak to them, or did you do a survey, or what did you, how did you, get under their skin? What did you do to get them talking to you?
Yeah, every time. Actually, I probably should have mentioned this when you asked me about the books that have influenced me the most. So Adele Ravella's Buyer Personas book, it's called Buyer Personas, lays out a framework for methodically interviewing your customers to understand not only what their needs are, but what the business context in which they're operating is, and the steps that they might go through to consider or evaluate your technology. So I read very early on in my marketing career, I read this book, but when I went to go talk to my peers in industry about what they were doing with buyer personas, there were always these kind of cartoonish fake profiles. And one of my ahas is like, well, hold on, we have real customers. Why aren't our real customers our buyer personas? So at Microgen, I learned firsthand how to do buyer persona research by interviewing customers in a very structured way and looking for the trends. Uh, Going back to your question, Adele recommends that you look for 5 different types of facts when you're interviewing customers. They call them the 5 rings of buying insight. So for anyone looking to learn how to do that, I highly recommend both reading and trying to apply Adele's framework. But I learned this at Microgen. It was the very first thing I did at PortSwigger. I think we did it in about the first 8 weeks, really identifying who our future target customers might be and actually what they cared about, which really completely changed our digital strategy overnight. And most recently at a private equity-backed learning management system software provider, I've done it again, helping the entire company, product sales and marketing, to have a shared articulation of who our customer is and what they care about.
Absolutely brilliant. And what I really love is the framework, actually, because that's really useful because it's scalable, isn't it? And also trainable, because it's easily to say to somebody, oh, go, you're working with a variety of different people in sales and marketing, and they could be quite junior, or they could be quite senior, or they could be quite set in their ways. I know how to speak to a customer. So to actually have a framework and follow a methodology, I think is really, actually, I'm going to check it out for myself, because we talk to our own customers, but it's really useful because we feel we know our customers, and we do our own our own unique profiles for our customers. But it does make sense actually to do that. Something we're always working on ourselves. It's not always a journey that you finish, is it really? So, so we've talked about some positive experiences at the moment where you've worked with companies where everybody's on the same page in marketing, but not always the case. So, can you walk us through, it doesn't have to be a specific example, but how you approach companies who maybe aren't so engaged in marketing, and how you'd go about educating stakeholders on the importance of integrating the sales, marketing, and product approach?
Oh gosh, yeah, I'm not sure if I've got a perfect way of encapsulating this, but I do have experiences, good and bad, I think, of convincing people of the value of marketing. But I think one of the things I try to do, and I put on my MBA hat, and I don't like to talk about that very much, and stop talking about marketing, but start talking about the business and the business goals and the challenges that are faced. Funny enough, just on this week, on Tuesday, 3 days ago, I was being interviewed by a CEO of a technology company, a growing technology company with about 10 million in revenue. And I was advocating for the approach, which I've just described to you: start with the customers and then reverse engineer the experience to give more new customers a chance to understand how powerful your technology is. And I asked the CEO, well, what are your business goals and milestones? And what are the biggest challenges that you think you're going to overcome? And at that point, the CEO admitted, like many CEOs had before, you know what, I don't think we've figured out exactly who our best customers are. We keep flipping from one thing to the next, and that's hurting us. So to answer your question, Karen, what I try to do is I try to transcend the discussion from marketing and the marketing lingo and the marketing tactics to, hold on, what are we trying to achieve? How are we going to achieve growth, whether that's revenue growth or profit growth for the company? What are our best opportunities? And really, who is that customer down the line? And what are we going to do together? It's not just marketing tactics that are going to win that customer, but what is the product going to do? How is it going to be unique in the market? How are we going to be useful to that customer even before they buy? How are we going to be useful to that customer after they buy? How actually do sales and marketing need to work together to achieve that? So it's about transcending the discussion from one about marketing to one about business. And I think that maybe by dint of my background and by dint of the fact that I accidentally took these jobs to be the first marketing hire at many companies, I think I've probably learned that skill to have the more high level discussion before drilling down into a whole bunch of marketing tactics.
Yeah, it's true. It's so easy to go from one tactic to another, isn't it? I often speak to companies who maybe have hired someone junior in marketing as their sort of first marketing hire, somebody, who's probably a marketing exec level. And that person then sort of works with the CEO, and the CEO might sort of say, right, you need to go and do the website. And then they have a dream over the weekend. Oh, we need to be doing this and we need to be doing that. And the person kind of runs around like firefighting, really, and doing lots of different tactical things. And then eventually they get to the end of it, and they don't have the bravery or the stakeholder engagement to say, well, we haven't a chance to finish the other 5 things that we started because you've got us onto something new, and see the results. And it goes into this merry-go-round, and then the net result is marketing is rubbish. And that's why I think it's really important for people to bring in someone who is a senior leader to start with, at least, even if you can't afford to bring in a person that's full time, even to bring in somebody like a fractional person who can set the strategy, who can build up what they're doing and mentor that person, but to definitely have a leader in marketing, not just a tactical go-to person reporting into a CEO. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
Yeah, I think I do. It's funny in speaking in sorry, using just my most recent experience, but in having 3 interviews with CEOs just in the last week, one of the best approaches to marketing is to go back to first principles and think, what are we trying to achieve, and to have an honest discussion about, well, how are we going to achieve that? I think oftentimes an unknowing business leader, someone who doesn't have experience, with marketing, will say, "Oh yeah, we'll hire a marketing director, and they'll come with all these magic wands, and they'll just fix the problem, and then the revenue growth will be there." And that's completely unknowing and ignorant. I had a senior leader at my most recent company tell me when I joined, "Hey, do you just have your entire? I want to see your entire process just mapped out so that I can start managing you to do that." And I thought, hold on. I asked the person, "What is your sales process?" And they said, "Oh, well, we follow this book and this technique, and that book is 900 pages." And I said, "Well, do you want me as your marketing leader to write down my 900-page book? Because if I want to do that, I'm going to go start my career as an author, right?" I think what we need to do is think, well, hold on, who is the customer, and how are we going to be valuable to that customer, not only through our product, but through the experience that we give to them? How are we going to build our expertise? How are we going to align our teams? Marketing is not there's no secrets to marketing, right? At the end of the day, we're here to help help more customers at scale derive value from our company and our products. And to do so, we can have an open and honest discussion with the other leaders in our business, whether they're in product, they're in sales, they're in customer success, they're in executive management, about our plans to do that.
Do you know what I think is really interesting is also what you talked about, frameworks. It's great to have a framework, I think, but it's not always the same. There's not like a flow chart, like you're saying. There's not like a book where you start at the beginning, you just follow it every page, because every company has a different scenario, a different situation, a different need. So there's a different way that the marketing will actually outcome really from it. So, I mean, if there was a silver bullet that you could just write a book for and do it, then I think we should write it and publish it and go into being an author. So we've talked about working with very capable sales teams in the past, but how should marketing and sales partner for effective go-to-market motions in the enterprise space?
Yeah, 2 things, and sorry to be a broken record. I think the first one is a deep and shared understanding of the customer. Uh, at most recently, the private equity backed learning management system provider, 25 million pounds in revenue, so they're not brand new in their market. uh, I went and did our buyer persona research. Actually, there I did it uniquely. We actually gathered a cross-functional group, 10 different people of all different seniorities from all of the go-to-market functions, and we did that buyer persona research together. And what I learned, I remember going back to our most senior accounting executives, three of them, and saying, "Hey guys, I think you guys know this stuff. You know how to sell the company's products better than anyone. But I want to play back to you what I've learned from the research and what the terms are I think we use to describe it." And all three of them went, "That's amazing. I thought I was the only one who recognized those trends." And what it told me is that even in marketing, there was an assumption that sales had a shared talk track, a shared way of understanding the customer and shared way of understanding the customer needs. But that was not the case at all. So the first thing that I would advocate any marketing person do at any level is really make sure that we have a shared insights with sales. And sales can do a lot to support marketing in this situation, right? We can be listening to call recordings, we can be joining customer calls, we can be looking at handover notes. Now, the onus should be on sales, right, to make sure that marketing teams are educated on who the customer is and what they're hearing. Because if not, the marketing and the website and the campaigns are all going to suck, right? So that's the first thing we've got to do. I think the second thing is around you talked earlier, Karen, about oftentimes marketing teams just get tons and tons of requests and they can't keep up and they're doing all these tactical things. But actually, at the end of the day, the revenue growth isn't there and the marketing team is burned out and the marketing director gets fired, which so often happens. What I've learned is that marketing and sales and actually product and management teams need to really share a written down list of what our top growth opportunities are, organized by customer segment, right? So I've got a segment over here of customers with this need in this geography. This is what they think they're doing. This is how big we think that market is. This is how many customers we already have that fit into that bucket. Do we agree that's our top opportunity? If so, we're going to let loose the marketing team to go develop ways to help more of those customers see the value that we can bring. So if you don't go through that process of identifying and agreeing your top growth opportunities, next thing you know, our 5-person marketing team are taking orders from our 30-person sales team, and they just can't keep up with the level of requests. So we've got to agree what our top growth opportunities are. So those are two things, Karen. I think one, it's about that shared articulation of who the customer is and what their needs are. And second, it's around making sure we have a shared view on where our biggest opportunities for growth are.
At the moment, there's been a really tricky period in technology marketing. The last sort of 18 months has been quite tough for many, and companies haven't seen their growth. Have you got any thoughts on why that is the case?
Yeah, well, definitely. I mean, I think I can only repeat what I think a lot of us see uh, is that there's been massive investment in venture capital investment, private equity investment into technology companies, many of whom aren't profitable, many of whom then went and hired large teams. And so the result is there's a lot of products in the market. It's easier than ever today to build a software company and to run that software company globally. There is more noise than ever because you got all these marketing and sales teams trying to sell at scale. The tools and technologies are there to make it much easier to identify or to target someone you want to sell to. But there isn't the confidence for companies to invest in a lot of new tools, right? So growth becomes harder. Now, the obvious consequence of this on marketing folks is that not unlike what is written about in Crossing the Chasm, is that we need to start identifying our unique capabilities, the segments or the groups of customers with similar needs that we can serve better than anyone else. And we need to have some clear strategies between marketing, sales, and product teams to deliver that value to those customers. For marketers themselves, if there was a third thing, I think, and we see this going on in LinkedIn every day these days, right? It's not about blank promotion. All the marketing automation of before that was just saying, hey, look at us, join this month's webinar, read this month's newsletter, yada yada yada. I think a lot of it is just too company centric. We've got to go to what are the things that will be really useful to our target customer outside of our product, and how can we serve that community. Another great book, They Ask, You Answer, it's not intended necessarily to be a marketing book, but is a really great lesson on, actually, at the end of the day, our target customers have questions about our product, but also about how they can do their jobs more effectively. We should view our jobs as marketers as helping them to answer more of their questions. And we've got some great tools to do that these days, bringing together communities, having roundtable events, helping our customers to make the business case for what they're doing. So marketers have got to get back to how can we be useful to customers rather than just promoting our wares.
And also, I think there's been a lot of talk of budgets being cut, and some people even saying the marketing budget is the headcount of the marketing team, and that the marketing team can build a sort of like a magical, just by being there, they're going to sort of be able to make revenue for the business without spending any further revenue. I don't know if have you ever experienced that sort of mentality or thought?
Yeah, I think I've definitely experienced that mentality even quite recently. I'm kind of mixed on the issue because uh, to deliver value to your customers, you don't actually need a lot of money. But what you need to do is have real depth of customer engagement. I think about I've been following this great company, Hockey Stack, on LinkedIn. Again, there's someone who serves a population of marketing directors. But they've done 12 research reports in the last few months, and they're all useful and they're all insightful. And I'm having a demo of Hockey Stack next week, which I'm excited about. But I'm looking at that going, well, actually, I trust these Hockey Stack people because I like their perspective. They've been useful to me. I trust they know what they're doing. And I don't even know what their product does really yet. So I think that's a lesson in not needing a lot of money, but you need to think how you're going to be useful to your customer, and you need to direct your resources to do that. That being said, in order to hit any audience at scale these days, you need to make sure you've got a way of targeting your customers effectively, and marketing technology, unfortunately, isn't always cheap. So I think marketers do need technology. I think advertising, despite being expensive, is still very relevant in today's world, especially when things are so competitive. And ultimately, if you're going to be driving engagement with your target customers, right, you're going to need some money. You're going to need some money to do that, right? Whether it be through events or great content or whatever it may be. So yeah, marketers can't exist without any budget, but I believe small marketing teams can make a big impact if they really focus on deeply understanding the customer.
And I think your example did you say, was it Hockey Stack? Is that the name of their business?
I
The
don't know
software
much
you were just
about
talking
them,
about.
but they're
Yeah,
doing
no,
a
no, no,
great
no.
job
But
of
no, what I
serving
think is
people in
a
my
really
world.
interesting example of, an interesting example actually of them is that they've done really well to put some value out there, and to put some content out there and to be aware. But like in marketing, it's like, I always think it's like a whack-a-mole, isn't it? You get one thing right, and then the other bit pops up, and the other bit that's popped up for them is we're not really sure on what their product proposition is. So they need somebody on the product side to probably talk about the value, but they've managed to get their content machine working and people interested and buying in and giving some value. But there's always something in marketing, there's always another aspect, you'll never fully complete. It's like, I think I always talk about the triangle of sales, marketing and product, and it's like just going round that triangle over and over again, isn't it, really?
It is, yeah. I mean, one of the lessons I did learn at PortSwigger, I learned it through failure, but one of the lessons I learned is that importance of having a shared customer map, right through from the point your customer might be considering your problem, the problem that you can solve for them, or the problem that they have, all the way through to them using the product, them and their teams using the product months and months or years into their experience. Without that, you can't line up sales, marketing, and product to deliver that value. And what you end up with is exactly what you described, Karen. Marketing suddenly does a great job on one thing. It might be events or webinars or content or something. You get a lot of people to engage with your business, but they don't get the value that they want through the product, and that's just not sustainable. So I think there's going to be a resurgence of interest in mapping the customer experience end to end and aligning teams around that shared experience. And that's where marketing and sales and product are going to have to find ways to have more fruitful partnerships.
Okay, so slightly unfair question to ask anybody, but crystal ball time, what do you predict is going to happen in the next sort of 12 to 18 months in the technology marketing space? Do you think we're going to still come out the other side with the economy? Do you think we're going to see green shoots, growth, or do you think it's going to still stagnate? What's your view?
Well, the inflation figures are hopeful, and I think that, I think I haven't actually studied it yet, but I'm guessing that interest rates are going to be reduced and whatnot, and I think that will give companies that have good propositions, it will give them a chance to invest again with a bit of confidence, invest in team members, invest in new products and product development. Uh, that being said, I also believe that there is a mountain of non-viable companies out there, right? Companies that focused all at growth at all costs, that aren't profitable and probably don't have a good route to profit. So I think we'll sadly continue to see a lot of layoffs and redundancies in tech over the next 18 months. But big picture, if I put those two things together, a bit of optimism that the short-term economy will start to turn around, and the fact that we're still got a bit of a glut of capacity. I do think that we're in a good space, right? Technology is only going to help the world and help businesses to grow over time. I think I've just accepted an offer this week with a really exciting company in the enterprise architecture space. And when I look at their product proposition, I think, oh my gosh, the ways that companies are still deploying technology is still quite inefficient. And there's a lot that technology can do to make it easier for companies to grow through good application of technology. So I think the big picture is, right, the tech industry is going absolutely nowhere but up. There's a lot of value, there's a lot of excitement, a lot of new innovation, some driven through AI, although I'm not completely bought into all the hype. And so I think we'll see over the next 10 years, hopefully, the next 10 years of my career, a lot of exciting momentum in the tech space.
Exactly, fantastic. So we're coming towards the end of our time together, but I've just wondered, is there anything else that I haven't asked you that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, there's probably one thing, and sorry, Karen, I know you've had a thriving business in placing talent and marketing and sales talent in many organizations. So I'd love to talk about what trends you see for hiring and marketing, specifically not so much just the roles, but what the capabilities and skills and differentiators are that are winning marketing people jobs these days might be.
The number 100% thing that wins someone a job is their ability to think commercially about the results they're doing with the company. So anybody that ever goes and starts talking tactically and starts talking about, oh, I did click throughs, or we got extra traffic onto the website, those even very senior people I've interviewed who do that, those people are the ones that will, they're not seeing that vision. Anyone who really wants to really pursue a career in marketing, no matter how junior or senior you are, you need to realize that you are resulting in a commercial outcome for the business, and that's the key. And I think there are other sectors. I think technology's been a leader in that, but there are other sectors that I'm looking at, such as energy, who I think who in the past are going to be on that journey for the future. So I think that technology has been a massive learning experience for marketeers. But I think the people from technology are going to go into other sectors potentially and take those sectors on the journey that technology's been on and the proactive aspect of it. So that's where I see it. I think that's the number one factor for me. I also think it's that bringing together everything in marketing. So somebody who can look at the bigger picture and see that it is, they're working closely with the sales team and the product team, and they're all working as a team, and it's not rolling your eyes, or we're being subservient to the sales team. You're equal partners, and you're all working together in the business, and you're not trying to please somebody. You're trying to work together for that common goal. And I think those are the key aspects that I'd see in any attribute of somebody. And then the other thing is attitude as well. Someone who isn't going to necessarily flog themselves to death and work 18-hour days and burn themselves out, but somebody who consistently looks after themselves, self-care, but is consistent at educating themselves, staying on trend, learning, testing, measuring, and moving forward in what they're doing. I think those three aspects are really the biggest bits of advice that anyone could have in developing a future career in marketing of any type.
It really aligns, especially your point about commerciality. One of the questions I've had, I'm now old and have had hired many marketing teams and mentored many junior marketing and sales people and customer success people. And one of the questions I always have is how do we become more commercial? And I think your comment around the need for marketing folks to be more commercially driven is really, really, really important.
And that's not just the senior people, that's the junior people, even the marketing assistant. Anybody that comes in, like the whole department needs to understand the commercial outcome and what they're doing and the value of the business and where they're going as a company. And I think any company that can embody that in their marketing team, that's where they're gonna go forward leaps and bounds, really, and also develop future leaders in marketing, that they're bringing on and mentoring for future, which is also important, really. To perpetuate it and give back to the community. As we wrap up today's episode on the Spotlight of Marketing, I want to thank Ross Chapman for sharing his valuable insights and experiences with us. It's been very interesting, and I think we've all got a nice reading list to go away with after this as well, which is an extra bonus, so thank you for that. But thank you for all listening and tuning into the Spotlight of Marketing. And if you enjoyed today's episode, please do subscribe, rate and review the podcast. And don't forget to share it with your colleagues and friends in the marketing and the wider technology community. Until next time, keep shining the spotlight on the power of marketing and driving your business growth.